Okay, so a very good morning to one and all, and I, Nachiket Gokhale, welcome you back to the 23rd lecture in the lecture series for heat transfer for chemical engineers targeted towards gate preparation. And today, in this particular lecture, we'll be starting with evaporators as how to build it and all. So there are basically two things in evaporators. First is how a device has to be built, and second is some aspects of thermodynamics that play a key role in designing the device, which we'll be studying later. Now talking about evaporators as a topic in particular exams and its weightage. So basically two types of questions are asked in this particular topic. The first one is based on the theory, which is what is evaporator, what are the types of evaporators, their working principles, advantages, disadvantages, applications, blah blah blah. So these questions are very much famous in your technical tests for internships and placements. And in the gate examination, they don't go for such memory based questions, rather they prefer some short numericals. So we'll be discussing those terms, and we'll be solving a good amount of full-fledged numericals in the upcoming part of the lecture. So today I will start the lecture with the theory part, and then we'll proceed forward towards the numerical part. Alright, so the first thing that comes to our mind is, what is evaporation? So evaporation is basically a unit operation that consists of the elimination of water of a fluid by means of vaporization or boiling. So basically now you need to understand the difference between unit operation and mechanical operation and unit processes. So okay, so I hope you are well versed with it, the difference between operation and processes, unit operation and unit processes. So should be able to take care of that. And so in evaporation, what we do is we try to remove a volatile, so there will be more than two components in the solution, and we try to remove out the most volatile one first. Alright, so if we have a mixture of water and sugar, obviously water will be the most volatile one, and we'll try to evaporate out, or we'll try to vaporize water by boiling that particular solution, and what we'll get is a thick solution of sugar. I mean, the concentration of sugar in the solution increases, and then we can crystallize it and get to sugar. So one example of evaporator I have particularly mentioned. So evaporators are used, these evaporators work on the principle of differences in the boiling points of the respective solutions. So not only just sugar, water, or some non-volatile component and volatile component, but evaporators are also used in cases of liquids where both the liquids are volatile, but one is relatively highly volatile, other is relatively less volatile. So maybe we have a mixture of two liquids, A and B. Liquid A has a boiling point of, say, we have a mixture of A plus B, and A has a boiling point of 80 degrees Celsius, and B has a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius. So here A will be the most volatile thing, and we'll be trying to remove out A using evaporation. Alright. Alright, now let's talk about the particular device evaporator. Alright, so as discussed earlier, it is used to evaporate a volatile solvent. Usually this solvent is water. In the industries, we use evaporators for removing water from various solutions and liquids, and its purpose is to concentrate non-volatile solutes such as organic compounds, inorganic salts, acids, or bases. So you talk about salt making process. What is it? It's evaporation. You take seawater, you put it on a open pan kind of thing made out of salt. Alright, then you allow the sun to evaporate away the water, and what you are left with is salt, the common salt. Then you purify it and use it. So that is the natural evaporation, or the natural evaporator that we use. Alright, now big companies, they go for having some evaporators. So they build instruments based on this particular principle. And not only just inorganic salts, but various acids and chemical powders, then organic compounds are purified, processed, and manufactured using this particular device. It's a very important device in industries apart from your heat exchangers. All right. So evaporation results in precipitation of solutes in the form of crystals, which are usually separated from the solution with cyclones, settlers, wash columns. So based on what sort of compound you are separating out, you will decide on this particular second separator thing. So separator completely depends on what sort of what I can say compound that you are using. All right. So if you are going with some sort of inorganic salts, then you will have to use crystallizers. Uh, if you are going for some powdered thing, then you might have to use wash columns and centrifuges. And if that powder forms slurry with it, then you have to use centrifuges extensively. If size is also a matter, then cyclones are also required, so on and so forth. So let's talk about the basic terminologies that are related to heat or thermal designing of evaporators. So first thing that we always talk about is what is the driving force. So here the driving force will be the difference between the product temperature and the steam temperature. Now we have already discussed in the topic of boiling and condensation that it is highly recommended that you maintain a constant temperature for the source when we are going for boiling, and because your boiling curve depends extensively on that delta T, so it is recommended that instead of going for a constant flux sort of source, we go for a constant temperature source for boiling of any fluids in industry. All right. So to have that we use steam. Why steam? Because once the pressure of the steam has been mentioned, all right, then the temperature is also fixed. We can have a steam at fixed temperature and pressure, and what steam will do is it will give away the latent heat and it will condense to liquid at the same particular temperature. So meaning that I can have a constant temperature source in the form of steam, right? And by varying the pressure, I can have it at various temperatures. All right. What is the product that we are or what is the result of vaporization that we are interested in? So we are interested in removing the volatile solvent from the feed. The feed solution will essentially consist of the highly volatile solvent and a non-volatile solute. In some cases it can have very less or a highly low volatile solute also. So example, you can have some orange juices or some any sort of fruit juice, and you need to make a concentrate of that juice. So that's typically a case of that, and concentrate will be a non-volatile solute. All right. So let's talk more about the service stream and why we are going to use. As I said in the last slide, we'll be going for steam. So steam heat is used for transfer of heat for subsequent vessels, and steam has a very high heat content. As you see, Cp delta, if you compare Cp delta T values and lambda values, you can experience a one order of difference between the heat capacities. Say delta T to be 50 or 40, right? What is Cp value? Cp is 4.18. Let's take it to be 4. 4 cross 40 is 160, and the lambda value is around one order higher than the Cp delta T value, that maximum we can achieve in a particular process. How I am taking 40, let's say at 25 degrees Celsius or something, we have the feed water, we can heat it max to 80 or 90, right? So just take the delta T multiplied by Cp, and just you can from there itself you can see how high the lambda values for steam are, and how small the Cp delta T value is as compared to it. Order of difference, that is 10 times difference, can be easily observed. Alright. and this steam now this second stream that they are talking about is, you see, after I evaporate out the water from the mother liquor or this particular solution, it will now be converted into steam, so I can use it to generate electric power. And the low pressure exhaust steam can be used for process heating. And this particular since we are using steam to heat or to boil, this unit becomes a highly energy intensive section in the overall industry, even higher than heat exchangers, why we will be seeing mathematically in the next class. So also, since we are directly using steam to heat it, so the cost of operating this particular equipment has a major factor of the steam cost. So steam cost is playing a very important role in deciding the cost of operation cost of the evaporator. So, and generating steam is costly, so they try to use methods like heat integration to cut out the amount of heat required in an evaporator, or basically to increase the efficiency so that the cost can be reduced. Now coming back to the various parts of evaporator. So evaporator basically has three parts. First is the heat exchanger, wherein the heat is exchanged from steam to the or rather the heat is transferred from the steam to the solution, and the solution boils. Now this solution will be having liquid, concentrate and vapors, and we need to separate out the vapors, and then we need to cool the final solution, the concentrated solution, so condenser. So it has three parts: the heat exchanger, the vapor separator and the condenser. Alright, I would like to show this via a diagram. So this is typically a big shell in which I feed the solution on the shell side, you can think, or on the drum side, and the steam is fed in the tubes. Now the question can arise, why we are particularly feeding steam in the tubes and the solution in the vessel. So the idea is, the solution is now going to boil, it is now going to be evaporated or vaporized, right? So in the tubes there won't be such good what I can say provision for expansion, and rather it will then form bubbles and will disrupt the flow. Rather on the this tube side or the vessel side, I can have some extra space built, I can keep the solution filled till this level and I can boil it, and I have this huge empty space above wherein the vapors can be accumulated. So guys, is this particular idea clear to you? Why in general practice we try to keep feed on the vessel side and steam on the tube side? A quick raise of hands would be great. Yes. All right. Okay. Yes, I can. You were saying something.
Sir, can you please repeat it?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So the idea is, the solution that needs to be concentrated will be experiencing evaporation or boiling. That means some amount of water will now go from liquid to gaseous, meaning that expansion would be there. If I keep, or if I allot that particular stream to the tube side, all right, then the provision for expansion won't be great, that much possible. Also, if it expands in between, तो ट्यूब के बीच में bubbles form कर देगा and it will restrict the flow, or it will hamper the flow. So instead what I would prefer is, I have a vessel and I keep the fluid in it, and then I insert a array or a bundle of tubes in it, and I allow the steam to flow in it. So by using this tube and vessel arrangement, I am ensuring more heat transfer area. Alright, we have already seen in the topic of evaporation that Q is equal to HA delta T is used, and more the area, more will be the flux. Also H depends on delta T, hence we are going for constant temperature source rather than flux source, which are basically electrical heaters. flux source is electrical heater, temperature, constant temperature is the steam source. So that's why I'm allotting this particular feed in the vessel side. In general there will be some exceptions where the solution feed is allotted to tubes, and we'll be discussing that in the couple of minutes from now. So is the basic idea clear now, Saikara? Why we are going for such kind of arrangement? Tubes built, steam going in tubes, feed fed to the vessel or the shell. Yes.
Yes, sir. So,
Okay. Now I have set this arrangement. Uh, Steam is coming in, and the condensate or the saturated liquid is going out from the tubes, and this is particularly immersed in the pool, or I can say a batch of feed, which is getting concentrated. Now vapors would be formed over here. I need to take out this vapors, I need to take out this product, I need to cool this product. I can now use this vapors as a steam, and use it to heat something, or if the pressure is good enough, I can go superheat it and use it for even use it for power generation. All right, I can basically reuse this particular vapor stream. So this is the product out, this is the vapor out, and this particular unit over here is the vapor separator, where the vapors are being separated from the product. And then there will be a condenser unit, from where we'll get this vapor out. So basically you can you put this condenser over here on the product stream and use this steam, and vice versa. It typically depends on which particular stream is your most important one. All right. So now, after discussing what is the basis of basics of evaporator, we now go to various types of evaporator. So in our syllabus or in industries in general, 5 basic types of evaporators are used, and they are as follows. The first one is the vertical falling film evaporator, second one is the horizontal film evaporator, the third one is the rising film evaporator, the fourth one is atmospheric forced draft evaporator, and fifth one is the multiple effect evaporators. Alright, so just giving a brief overview. In vertical falling film evaporator, it will be like the liquid is falling vertically. In horizontal film evaporators, the liquid and the tubes basically would be aligned in the horizontal fashion. In the rising film evaporators, basically what we discussed in the previous slide, the fluid will be in the bottom of the vessel like this, and the vapors would be rising up, and what are the things that are going to take place, we'll be discussing them. And atmospheric forced draft is using the gravity for inducing forced convection, so it will be gravity based convection used over there. And in multiple effect evaporators are a different they are not a different class of evaporators. They are basically using multiple evaporation units. So basically this is one unit. So now I will try to put multiple units together to increase the efficiency and some other aspects. So we'll be discussing this also in the later part of the lecture. Alright, or maybe we'll be discussing this sometime tomorrow. So let's start with the first type of evaporators, or the first class of evaporators, which are the vertical falling film evaporators. So in this particular type of evaporators, the process fluid that has to be vaporized is fed to the top of the tube sheet. So we have vertical sheets, and the fluid is fed at the top, and it is allowed to fall down. And then we need to ensure that the liquid is uniformly distributed across all the outer areas of the tube, and we need to ensure that a minimum wetting rate is achieved. What do you mean by wetting rate? Wetting rate is the rate at which the fluid is wetting those particular areas of the tube. Alright, so that if we increase that rate, okay, if we increase the wetting rate, what will happen? If we increase the wetting rate, alright, so basically if I have the tube like this, and there is this liquid flow going out. All right, we have already discussed such kind of profiles previously. If this liquid thickness is increasing, meaning that the wetting rate is increasing, all right, only a part of the fluid will get vaporized and this particular part may not be vaporized. If I keep it low, right, then what may happen is I have this long tubes. Okay, तो समवेयर इधर तक ही पूरा वो वेपराइज हो गया एंड इधर ही आपको वो सॉलिड कॉन्सेंट्रेट मिल गया या फिर आपके पाउडर या जो भी प्रोडक्ट बन गया एंड दिस पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन is not at all used. So basically your wetting rate should not be so low that your entire tube length is not used or entire tube area is not used, and your wetting area should not be so high that essentially you are missing out on some part of the fluid. I mean, essentially you are losing out on efficiency. Some part of the fluid is not getting vaporized, so or is not receiving the heat to boil. So basically we should have a minimum wetting rate and uniform distribution, uniform liquid distribution, or even uniform, right? In this particular cases now, okay, in most of the cases, to achieve point number 2 and 3, okay, it is preferred to have these fluids flowing inside the tube, because then I can control many of the parameters. I will have bigger tubes, and then what I will try is I will now try to drop the liquids on the walls of the fluid. There won't be a regular flow through pipe. Okay, I will be just dropping those fluids on the wall so that I can control the areas, because controlling this wetting rate inside the pipe is giving me some more advantages. How? So there will be this fluid flowing like this. I can have some additional convective forces assigned over here in some applications if required, and at the same time I can have steam on the outside which is giving out the heat. Whereas if I keep it on the outer side like this, in cases it is not so easy to control, because then I cannot use this particular external thing from the inside of the tube. Then by also maintaining such flow rates is typically easier to be done on the inside of the tubes. All right, so this here it's the first case where the exception is used, where the fluid is going to the tube side. All right, let's move to the working principle. So the fluid will be forming a liquid film because of the gravity, and the characteristics of the film would be defined by the Kapitza number and the film Reynolds number. We'll not go into detail of the Kapitza number, but this particular geometry of the film is something which we have already discussed in the class on boiling and condensation. Typically the condensation part, wherein we were seeing the film condensation type, right? We had seen this. Again, steam would be used as the heating source, and steam condenses on the tube outside of the tube and flows also the gravity control to the bottom of the unit. Inside tubes, two-phase flow is separated by means of separator at the bottom of the unit. So they can separate basically the vapors and your concentrated fluid, right? So advantage of this particular vertical film is that low cost and small floor space. Why small floor space? Is because it's a vertical unit. So basically, I'm sorry, it's a vertical unit, so it will be taking less of foot space. जगह कम लेगा but ऊंचाई ज़्यादा होगी. Alright, so floor space is less. It is suitable for viscous material. Why? Because जैसे जैसे concentration बढ़ेगा वो viscous होते जाएगा, तो जितना ज़्यादा viscosity बढ़ेगा उतने ही ज़्यादा force के साथ उतने इसके साथ वो नीचे कलेक्ट होने लगेगा. सो ग्रेविटी बेस्ड उसका नीचे का खींचना जो है वो ज़्यादा पावरफुल होते जाएगा. सो this is more preferred, whereas in other evaporators, okay, you may have to do recirculation, and we have already seen जितना मटेरियल विस्कस होगा उसका रिसर्कुलेशन करने में पंप को ज़्यादा कॉस्ट लगेगा. वेरी इधर मैं इसकी विस्कस प्रॉपर्टी को नेचुरल यूज में ला रहा हूँ. ऑल राइट, जैसे बॉक्सिंग या उस टाइप के स्पोर्ट्स में कहते हैं कि अपोनेंट का फोर्स यूज करो उसके अगेंस्ट ही, राइट. सो he is like that strong bull who is putting all his efforts on you. He's punching you hard and hard, and you have to use his force against him. Even this goes for taekwondo, karate, all such kind of sports. They use that tactic. इधर भी हम वही कर रहे हैं. Viscous force is very difficult to pump out. उनको अगर हम actively पंप से सर्कुलेट करने का या इसका सोचेंगे तो बहुत कॉस्ट बढ़ेगी. बट मैं अगर उनको ऊपर एक ही बार चढ़ा के छोड़ दूँ तो वो खुद अपने ही वजन से नीचे गिरते रहेंगे, and we'll be exactly using this principle. And hence for such kind of viscous things, vertical film evaporators are more preferred, and this particular units can handle high evaporation load. So basically it can evaporate more amount of steam. Disadvantages are हाई हेड रूम रिक्वायर्ड. अब देखो ज़मीन की एरिया कम की तो ऊंचाई बढ़ गई तो हेड रूम ज़्यादा लगेगी. नॉर्मली अपना घर 10 से 15 फीट ऊंचा होता है. दिस पर्टिकुलर सेटअप मे रिक्वायर यू टू बिल्ड अ फ्लोर ऑफ 25 to 30 फीट्स. सो उधर थोड़ा सा आपको कंस्ट्रक्शन के कॉस्ट में ये होगा, क्योंकि बिल्डिंग व्हाट आई कैन से लॉन्गर वॉल्स और हैविंग हायर रूफ्स रिक्वायर्स मोर ऑफ दैट रिकंसिलेशन एट द बॉटम. सो high headroom is the disadvantage, which is not that big disadvantage as considered to this viscous thing. So for viscous thing this is a very good thing, and recirculation is required. All right, let's move to the second sort of film evaporator, which is the horizontal film evaporator. So here the liquid to be vaporized is distributed evenly on the top of horizontal tube bundle. So there we had vertical tube bundle, and inside the tube bundle we were putting out the layers of this particular fluid. Right here we have a horizontal tube bundle like this, and the liquid that has to be vaporized is now evenly distributed on the top. So it is distributed over this particular area. So now in this particular case the process fluid is on the outer side and the steam is on the tube side. So then we need some sort of plates and jet nozzles to achieve this even distribution. Then again a minimum wetting rate has to be maintained, because अगर स्टार्टिंग में ही पूरा का पूरा ड्राई आउट हो गया तो नीचे के ट्यूब्स इनफेक्टिव रहेंगे, उनसे कुछ काम नहीं हो पाएगा. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा फ्लो रेट रहा तो एक अमाउंट ऑफ फ्लूइड ऐसा भी होगा जो बेसिकली वेपराइज हो ही नहीं रहा है, उसमें से कुछ वो वैसे के वैसे ही नीचे जा रहा है, मस्त सहल करके आ गया, एक ट्रिप करके आ गया, राइट. सो अगेन ऑप्टिमम wetting rate has to be maintained over here as well. And again even in this particular case we have to look out for the film thickness and other characteristics of the fluids by using the film Reynolds number and the Kapitza number. Will not be going into detail of this. The fluid can be encountered between the tubes as droplets, jets or continuous sheets. So basically here you can use any sort of flow arrangement where you can simply spray out the droplets of the process fluid, and then powder will be formed. You can then scalp it out or scrape it out. You can have a jet of that fluid being sprayed on it. So you can imagine a horizontal bundle of tubes wherein steam is flowing, and using jets the fluid is now sprayed on it. So basically अगर आप देखोगे droplet and jet is the reverse of the condensation. Drop wise condensation was more preferred in condensation. Here we are doing evaporation, but again drop wise is more preferred, and to bring out that drop wise thing they are trying to use droplets or jets, and continuous sheet is something like the film type condensation. Here it is film type evaporator. Alright, you can think of those analogies, right? Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages. So since some sort of liquid impingement is done, the heat transfer is higher as compared to vertical evaporators. We already seen, because they are very close to achieving what I can say is the drop wise condensation in the case of condensation, which had a very high edge. Here they are very close to achieving drop wise evaporation, which is way effective because of higher edge heat transfer coefficient. So it is having a good heat transfer or a better edge as compared to vertical evaporators. But there are some disadvantages. The feed distribution is pure on tube side, and with corrosive or foul fluids it may possess a problem, because uh, it will then corrode both the shell and the tubes. So this is particularly the disadvantage with corrosive fluids. And now we move out to the next and basically the third type of evaporator, which is the rising film evaporator. So here in rising film evaporators we use long tubes, okay, and this is essentially looking like a vertical shell and tube heat exchanger. The liquid being evaporated is fed from the bottom into long tubes and heated with steam condensing on the outside of the tubes from the shell side. So basically again in rising film evaporator, what we are trying to do is we'll have the fluids in the tube side, process fluid, and we will not be pumping them at so big speeds. The idea is the steam on the shell side will evaporate it, the fluid will rise. Let me just draw. The steam everywhere, and I have now put out the fluid here. Alright, so then this will rise, it will again fall, it will rise, and how this helps in increasing the efficiency will be just looking now, right? So the force of the steam during boiling causes liquids and vapors to flow upward in parallel flow. So this particular steam and the temperature drop is making it rise. At the same time, production of vapor increases as we are going up, and the product is pressed as a thin film on walls of the tube. So basically once it gets evaporated, the vapor will be in the center of the tube and it will expand. You see the volume expands when we go from liquid to vapor, and then it will try to exert some force on the liquid over here. So this is rising with fluid, but as more and more vapors are generated, okay, let me just okay, so as vapors are generated over here, something, they will expand in volume, right? Now they will, अब वॉल्यूम बढ़ गया तो वो क्या करेंगे, जैसे 7 सीटर रिक्शा या कॉमन शेयर रिक्शाज में हम लोग कॉमनली देखते हैं इंडिया में कि व्हाट दे डू, थोड़ा आगे पीछे खिसक लो भैया. सो दे विल ऑल्सो डू द सेम थिंग. फ्लूइड ऊपर चढ़ रहा है इधर से ऐसे, ओके, तो उसको कहेंगे खिसक लो भैया, और दीवार पे खिसक लो. जैसे है ना, जो साइड में बैठा होता है उसको बोलते हैं ना, और थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे होके बिल्कुल वो रिक्शा के वॉल्स के ऊपर खिसक जाओ पूरा अच्छे से, right? So it will say to the fluid, get compressed. I know you are having some very slight compressibility, use it, because I have been now converted into vapor, I need more space, something like that, and it tries to push it out. So meaning that thin films इसमें ensure हो जा रहा है, right? Which is a good thing, because thinner the film, higher will be the heat transfer. Also delta T should be higher delta T's can be used, because जितना ज़्यादा delta T होगा उतना ही वो उसको ऊपर उठाएगा फिल्म को. Alright, and this particular rising film is again good for having viscous products and products that have the tendency to foul the heating surface. क्योंकि वो ट्यूब साइड में है तो शेल और बाहर की चीज़ों को ख़राब नहीं करेगा, सिर्फ अंदर वाली चीज़ को ख़राब करेगा. हम उसको आराम से क्लीन कर सकते हैं केमिकली टाइम टू टाइम. And here since delta T temperature is the driving force, so higher delta T between the heating and the boiling side is preferred, and typically the lengths of these evaporators are around 7 meters in height. Alright, so advantage is higher heat transfer rates at high temperature differences, ease of cleaning because सिर्फ आपको ट्यूब्स को क्लीन करना है, तो आप केमिकल या मैकेनिकल किसी भी इससे आप ट्यूब्स के अंदर क्लीनिंग कर सकते हो, एंड रिलेटिवली इनएक्सपेंसिव. ऑलराइट, now we come to the fourth class of evaporators, which is forced circulation evaporator. Alright, so here ये थोड़ा सा अलग टाइप का है, ठीक है. तो why it's slightly different, I will be showing it in the diagram in the next slide. So first understand यहाँ पे हो क्या रहा है. तो लिक्विड को हम ट्यूब्स में सर्कुलेट करेंगे by a means of pump, राइट. एक पंप है, वो लिक्विड को ट्यूब में डालेगा. Liquid is the liquid that we need to concentrate, and since a pump is used, boiling will not take place because boiling point is elevated. प्रेशर के साथ boiling point चेंज होता है. पंप से प्रेशराइज फ्लो हो रहा है, तो वो boiling point एलिवेट होगा, तो वो होगा नहीं. Then this heated fluid is now sent to a separator. वहाँ पे the vapors and concentrated are separated, and then again that fluid is taken back and fed. and also ये जो पंप का फोर्स सर्कुलेशन है, उससे क्या हो रहा है, मिक्सिंग इंश्योर हो रहा है. तो जैसे हम लोग घर में किसी चीज़ को गर्म कर रहे हैं, तो वी ट्राई टू स्टिर इट सो दैट इट गेट्स हीटेड यूनिफॉर्मली. सो यहाँ पे यूनिफॉर्म हीटिंग इंश्योर्ड है. एंड सिंस सच अ हाई एजिटेशन इज देयर, फ्लैशिंग ऑफ सुपर हीटेड लिकर लीड्स टू मोर इवापोरेशन. सो यहाँ पे नाउ लेट्स गो टू द डायग्राम डायरेक्टली. देखो, ये एक वर्टिकल शेल एंड ट्यूब हीट एक्सचेंजर की तरह है. यहाँ पे एक्शियल फ्लो पंप लगा हुआ है. द पंप इज फीडिंग इन द फीड और द लिक्विड टू द ट्यूब साइड ऑफ दिस शेल एंड ट्यूब हीट एक्सचेंजर एट अ ग्रेट प्रेशर. ऑल राइट, यहाँ पे शेल साइड को इधर से स्टीम इन हो रहा है, उधर पीछे के साइड से स्टीम आउट हो रहा है. इट इज हीटिंग दैट फ्लूइड. वो हॉट फ्लूइड यहाँ से इधर आ रहा है, एंड इट इज फ्लैश्ड इन अ ड्रम. देखो एरिया बढ़ रहा है, अचानक से बहुत ज़्यादा एरिया बढ़ रहा है, तो इट्स अ फ्लैशिंग थिंग. यहाँ पे कोनिकल इसीलिए दिया है ताकि जो डेंसर चीज़ें होती है, बिकॉज द कॉन्सेंट्रेट विल बी डेंसर, सो इट विल बी बेसिकली एक्यूमुलेटेड ओवर हियर. सो एरो इधर से इधर होना चाहिए. एंड देन सिंस फ्लैशिंग इज टेकिंग प्लेस, अब तुम देख सकते हो कि वो वहाँ पे इवोपरेशन बढ़ जाएगा अचानक से, and vapors will get automatically separated from the liquid, and which are being taken out from this particular apparent thing over here, right. So again, working principle, same thing that I had just discussed, and this is the basic operation. So advantages are, so we can use it under high vacuum as well, and here we can have more solids than falling film. ऑलराइट, तो जहाँ जहाँ पे ज़्यादातर सॉलिड्स बनाने होते हैं, वहाँ पे इस टाइप की इक्विपमेंट को यूज़ किया जाता है. एंड इसी टाइप की चीज़ों से आपको एक और अच्छा एग्जांपल मैं बता दूँ कि हाउ मिल्क पाउडर इज़ मेड. जस्ट यू कैन गूगल इट आउट एंड सी विच सॉर्ट ऑफ इक्विपमेंट्स आर यूज्ड. ऑल्सो सम इनऑर्गेनिक सॉल्ट्स आर मेड यूजिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. नाउ we go to a very short introduction on multiple effect evaporators, and essentially I will be discussing the thermal design aspect, why we go for multiple effect evaporators in detail during our regular class, I mean in the next class. So in multiple effect evaporators, water is boiled in sequence of vessels, each held at a lower pressure than the last. So करते क्या है, as I said, ये है मेरा first evaporator. Alright, इसमें मैंने बेसिकली ये ट्यूब टाइप के जो बेसिक हमने देखे थे, जिसमें स्टीम ट्यूब्स में होती है, एंड फ्लूइड जो शेल में होता है उसमें ज़्यादातर यूज्ड है. स्टीम ट्यूब्स में है, तो इधर से इधर स्टीम आई. ऑलराइट, इधर हमने इधर से जो वेपर्स निकले. ऑलराइट, आई विल नाउ यूज दीज वेपर्स टू फर्दर कॉन्सेंट्रेट, sorry. Now I will use the vapors coming out from this particular vessel to further concentrate this fluid. ओके, फिर यहाँ से जो फ्लूइड निकलेगा इधर से, वो मैं दूसरे इवापोरेटर, वो मैं एक और यूनिट में लगाऊंगा, ठीक है, और उसको हीट करने के लिए यहाँ से जो वेपर्स निकले थे मैं उनका यूज़ करूँगा, राइट. सो बेसिकली दिस एक ही बैच ऑफ फ्लूइड इज गेटिंग हीटेड इन नाउ 3 डिफरेंट सेटअप्स, एक के बाद एक के बाद एक के बाद एक. आप लोगों ने अभी सीआरई में सी एस टी आर पढ़े होंगे, सी एस टी आर इन सीरीज एंड पैरेलल, राइट. तो दिस इज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ सी एस टी आर इन सीरीज. एक बार उसको मिक्स किया, फिर एक और रिएक्टर में डाल के फिर से स्टिर किया, फिर एक और रिएक्टर में स्टिर किया, एंड यहाँ पे हीट एक्सचेंज कर रहे हैं हम लोग. तो पहले से जो कंडेंसेट या स्टीम निकला, ये वाला ऊपर का वेपर, उसी से इसको सेकेंड टाइम हीट किया, बट इधर हमने प्रेशर कम कर दिया है. ऑल राइट, प्रेशर कम तो टेम्परेचर कम, मतलब बॉइलिंग पॉइंट डाउन. इधर हमने फिर से प्रेशर कम कर दिया है. तो बेसिकली इस तरह से वो काम करता है, एंड ये इधर से वही यूज हो रहा है. तो बेसिकली सिर्फ फर्स्ट वाला जो है, ऑल राइट, ओके एक मिनट, जो फर्स्ट इवापोरेटर है इन पर्टिकुलर कैस्केड में या सीरीज में, इनके कैस्केड में, इसको हमें स्टीम देनी पड़ रही है. एट द सेम टाइम लेट्स से सिंगल इफेक्ट से क्या हो रहा था, 70% तक हम उसको इवापोरेट कर पा रहे थे. लेट्स से 10% कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड फ्लूइड था, उसको 70% तक हमने हीट किया. 70 to 75 इसमें हुआ, 75 to 80 इसमें हुआ. बट टू गो फॉर 10 to 80 आई वुड हैव रिक्वायर्ड हायर अमाउंट्स ऑफ स्टीम, way higher amount of steam, higher temperatures. Because of higher temperatures I might degrade the product. Let's say संतरे का जूस या किसी टाइप का फ्रूट जूस कॉन्सेंट्रेट के ऊपर आप काम कर रहे हो, या कोई सॉल्ट के ऊपर काम कर रहे हो, ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर जाती ही सॉल्ट खराब हो जा रही, यू कांट एक्सीड दैट पर्टिकुलर टेम्परेचर. सो in those cases multiple effect evaporators are used. in एग्जैक्टली किस पर्टिकुलर चीज़ को वो टारगेट करता है, विच थिंग, क्योंकि इसमें काफ़ी सारे अब नए टर्म्स आने वाले हैं जो मैं नेक्स्ट क्लास में इंट्रोड्यूस करूंगा आप लोगों को. एग्जैक्टली किस टर्म को वो टारगेट करता है, व्हाट डज इट इंक्रीज दिस, मतलब रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ स्टीम, और इज इट इंक्रीजिंग द प्रोडक्ट आउटपुट, व्हाट, दैट विल बी डिस्कसिंग इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास. ऑल राइट, सो दिस इज द बेसिक्स ऑफ मल्टीपल इफेक्ट इवापोरेटर. आइडियली हम थियोरेटिकली सोच सकते हैं कि ये प्रोसेस को हम आगे आगे चलाते ही जा सकते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. 1 का 2, 2 का 3, 3 से 4, 4 से 5, 6, 7 हम बढ़ाते ही जा सकते हैं. बट हम आर्बिट्रेरली कितने भी नंबर ऑफ स्टेजेस या इफेक्ट्स नहीं डाल सकते. ऑल राइट, सो इफेक्ट मतलब दिस वन यूनिट इज कॉल्ड वन फर्स्ट इफेक्ट, सेकेंड इफेक्ट, थर्ड इफेक्ट. तो इफेक्ट इस तरह से, सो मैक्सिमम अप टू 7 कैन बी यूज्ड इन रियल प्रैक्टिस. ऑल राइट, इसके एडवांटेजेस देख लेते हैं. सो दिस इज सूटेबल फॉर लार्ज स्केल, फॉर कंटिन्यूस ऑपरेशन, हाईली इकोनॉमिकल व्हेन कंपेयर टू सिंगल इफेक्ट. दिस minimizes the energy requirement to evaporate or boil off with the excessive water content, which is the target or the expected result. And here we typically expect that total evaporation achieved in this system is approximately the number of effects times the energy input to the first effect. इसका detailed analysis we'll be doing in the next lecture. All right, but before closing today's lecture, I would like to present you this very important thing, make a very big good note of it, कि कौन से टाइप के evaporator का कहाँ पे यूज़ हो रहा है, which is very important. and ऐसी के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं कि in the caustic soda industry or in the industry to make caustic soda, और ये which type of evaporator I will use. The answer is falling film evaporator. ये कंटेंट मैं आपको एज ए रीडिंग मटेरियल दे सकता हूँ, बट आई नो कि आप लोग एग्जाम के एक दिन पढ़ोगे, फिर आप फंबल अप करोगे एग्जाम में, एंड यू विल लूज योर व्हाट आई कैन से इजी पॉइंट्स. सो इसीलिए मैं इनको क्लास में डिस्कस कर रहा हूँ. देन राइजिंग फिल्म इवापोरेटर कहाँ यूज़ होगा. सो इट विल बी यूज इन मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ कंडेंस मिल्क. कंडेंस मिल्क या मिल्क मेड का जो डिब्बा आता है नेस्ले का, कंडेंस मिल्क थिक ये होता है, इट्स यूज एज डेयरी एडनर. मिल्क पाउडर नहीं नेस्ले की, वो मिल्क कंडेंसेट थिक आता है, वो मिल्क शेक वगैरह बनाने में यूज़ करते हैं. ऑल राइट, तो वहाँ पे राइजिंग फिल्म यूज़ होता है. आप इंडस्ट्री में जाओगे, रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री हो गया या कोई भी पेट्रोलियम रिफाइनरी, वहाँ पे स्टीम की रिक्वायरमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, एंड वहाँ पे जो प्रोसेस फ्लूइड है दैट हैज़ टू हैव ऑलमोस्ट जीरो सॉल्ट, क्योंकि जितना सॉल्ट होगा उतना ही वो इक्विपमेंट को ख़राब करेगा। तो वहाँ पे क्या करते हैं, वो डिसैलिनेशन करते हैं। वो क्या कहते हैं, समुंदर से पानी उठाते हैं, दे टेक द सी वाटर एंड दे ट्राई टू डिसैलिनेट इट। one is done by using membranes, so membrane technology is one way, the which is the newer way and good way. The other way is using thermal desalination. Also in many countries, drinking water or potable water is a very big issue, so they use thermal desalination units. And thermal desalination units में they essentially build a rising film evaporator where they try to evaporate the sea water and take out salt free water, then add the essential amount of minerals to it and make it potable. Then effluent treatment में भी rising film evaporators is used. Food industry, just like all sort of fruit juices and vegetable juice processing industries, and beverage industries, including what I can say, distilleries, which essentially manufacture alcohols and different liquors. So they prefer forced circulation, क्योंकि एज आई सेड फूड सर्कुलेशन में बहुत ही अच्छे से वो, मतलब उनको ज़्यादा व्हाट आई कैन से, फाउलिंग नेचर बहुत ज़्यादा होता है उनके फ्लूइड्स का, तो वहाँ पे फाउलिंग अच्छे से कंट्रोल हो रहा है, तो दे गो फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. एंड then last, multiple effect evaporators. So sugar industry and wood industry typically chooses multiple effect evaporators. ऐसा नहीं कि multiple effect evaporators इधर नहीं चलते. अगर आपको बहुत ही कुछ अलग, मतलब कुछ स्पेसिफिक एप्लीकेशंस इधर यूज़ करने, तो आपको फोर्स सर्कुलेशन के अलावा मल्टीपल इफेक्ट इवापोरेटर भी यूज़ करना पड़ेगा. सो but typically sugar industries and industries that are making wood pulp for making paper, so they go for multiple effect evaporators. All right, with this I conclude today's lecture, and I hope you got a gist of what a evaporator is and what are the different types of evaporators, what are their advantages, disadvantages, their working principles, and where these particular evaporators are used in industry. This particular topic will be highly useful for your placement interview and placement test preparation, as multiple small 1 or 2 marks question in your placement tests are formed from this. Expect around 1 or 2 questions in your exams. All right, with this I conclude today's lecture. Thank you.